Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Did Mike Wolfe simply leave? He claimed to be American Pickers forever, merely having a rest. However, it appears that is there more to his startling choice? Concerning money, a covert scandal, or today, we're dealing with something considerably deeper, discovering the truth about it. And the truth could alter your perspective on the show forever. Might be Mike Wolfe's cause. Wishes to take a vacation from the show because, due to financial constraints, he has been employed as an expert picker for nearly 40 years of journeying throughout the United States is searching for uncommon to acquire a Wolfe. He refers to antiques as rusty gold, subsequently offers these goods for sale in his two archaeology antique shops, with one store in Iowa's interior and the other. These shops are located in Nashville, Tennessee, possess additional goods connected to his an item from the ancient archaeology. Brand in his shops may be as inexpensive as $18 or ace up to $900, based on what consumers like to purchase. Some reviewers chastised Wolfe stores for think that the costs are controversially excessive. They have asked why anything like the price of an antique cat food sign was as high as $900. According to other reviews, the store has very distinctive goods. There are limited options, even for these reviewers. Expressed dissatisfaction with the prices. Although, in spite of these grievances and critiques, his two stores are doing quite well right now. In 2023, one of them reported an annual sales of the store pays their bill on schedule with $93,000. And as a result of this commercial experience, according to the appraisal assessment, apart from that, stores have low-risk credit scores. Mike makes money from his stores, has had great success thanks to his display American Pickers. But were you aware of Mike nearly didn't have the show? Even start off as a picker, even he had always been interested in it. Since the age of 4, Mike has been Joliet, Illinois, is the birthplace of the second of 3 kids brought up by their growing up as a single mother, was a part of what in order to keep himself busy. Mike, remove his neighbors' old bicycle strash and fix them, but rather than expanding on that to turn into a professional picker, did something if not. He thought bicycle racing had a bright future and started racing bicycles competitively. Mike also had a passion for motorcycles because he chose to focus on the businessman's thoughts. His enthusiasm for business and established 2 bike shops, but there was a missing component, and after a while, Mike recognized the excitement that resulted from picking and the adventure that accompanied it. So subsequently, he determined that he preferred the daring, the picker's life. He started picking and was moving forward with it. He discovered fulfillment, traveled approximately 60,000 meters on his freight vehicle across the nation every year looking for unique vintage objects. After a few years of doing this, an idea Mike was inspired after seeing a business chance that could result in increased income and focus from his selection. He considered a program that focused on around his discoveries and was certain that inspired by Mike, it was destined to be a hit. Started visiting various studios with his thoughts, but they discredited him. But he never gave up, he kept picking, and he presented his views to the History Channel. And rather than receiving a no, they acknowledged that they recognized promise in the program, and the inaugural episode in 2010 broadcast. That episode did more than it exceeded all expectations by 3.1 million fans, and it was the first. The episode with the highest ratings from 2007 to 2010, that was simply the starting when the inaugural season concluded with almost 5.4 million viewers, between 25 and 24 years of age. Every week, the elderly watched him, and his reliable companion, the plump and frank Fritz with a beard, and his close pal Mike's antique stores Danielle Cubby Colby, an expert in ancient archaeology, Mike was a good friend for 10 years prior to Mike even came up with the idea for demonstrate the chemistry among the 3 of. They had convinced her to appear on the show. The large number of viewers for this show made the best-rated new cable TV non-fiction show Mike left in 2010. The life of anonymity he had become accustomed to over time and emerged as the most recent. The program's American TV star proceeded to maintain a devoted viewership, and every episode of the performance with that crowd, Mike earned a consistent $500,000 annually, and approximately $25,000 per episode is a substantial sum of funds. With 26 at the moment, you can imagine 389 episodes and seasons. Mike's earnings during the course of Mike invested this money over the years. At his establishments that we previously discussed, in addition, he acquired 13 properties and established other, new ventures such as restorations, where he revitalizes outdated fixtures and old lighting components by turning them into useful, unique furnishings for your house or place of business. Also authored works, such as American Picker. The book Guide to Picking was released in 2011, and Macmillan's Kid Pickers released in 2013, each of which has made money for Mike. But regrettably, Mika lost almost $6 of his fortune. Million. Is this the reason why this occurred? Mike will be stepping away from the show. Mike isn't solely focused on making money. Established the online community Kid Pickers that provides children between the ages of 7 and 13 with the site to discuss their personal selections and, moreover, frequently organizes charitable events and promotes charitable endeavors for SNE, the operation of Jude's Children's Hospital, Grin at Animal Shelters, and the ASCPA. To Mike is a remarkable individual who placed others first. But one individual believes Mike is a traitor as endearing as McKay. His romances haven't all ended. Jodie, his wife, was wed on. She gave birth on September 7, 2012, a year later to their daughter Charlie. Nevertheless, following 8 years of marriage in 2021, the pair split up in June 2020. Her divorce petition was submitted, and as part of the Mike was compelled to hand over the settlement, $6 million to her, but regrettably. Since this is for Mike, it isn't why he is taking a vacation, as well as his wife's tumultuous marriage won't be. The final one of such type, his next major, the explanation might have been falling out. Mike will be stepping away from the show. Mike has performed on this show for approximately 26 seasons, totaling almost 15 years. He performed on the show with Frank till 2020. Fritz is one of his co-hosts and co-star. The two of them journeyed across America. In their van, a Mercedes Sprinter, offered Transit's energy, and the event was kept interesting by a variety of interests. Mike adores vintage motorcycles, Volkswagen's vintage bicycles, and the penny farthing's Fritz, however, cherished vintage toys, oil cans, and peanut-related products, and Hondas obtained the necessary antiques from dwellings, barns, sheds, and outbuilding spaces, such as garages, where they have kept artifacts and antiquities that they see both serious and amateur collectors, hoarders, as well as those who have inherited a huge assortment of goods because they are unsure about how to handle. The two of them each have a way of making money off of what they discovered, while Mike Frank, they sold what they discovered in his store. Done the same on both his own website and Frank Fritz's store in Savannah. What the two did in Illinois was effective, were both endearing, and Frank recognized that Mike would be the main star forever, despite the fact that he was the one who performed the actual labor-intensive tasks if they discovered something Mike didn't think twice about. Unfortunately, stoop down and carry it. The two no longer have that chemistry. Frank passed away forever on October 1st, 2024. August 2022. Frank had a stroke, which kept him in the hospital for some time. Mike, when the stroke occurred, fans were requested to offer up prayers for Frank's healing and that he was regrettably performing the same 2 years following that stroke. Frank passed away from what physicians referred to as the long-term Mike, wrote a report on the impact of the stroke. Heartfelt eulogy for Frank and spoke about how they had both been Mike. We went through a lot together. Commended Frank for being a sincere individual whose persona appears on camera as identical to his persona from it. Mike subsequently declared his pride in having shared the main stage throughout the performance with Frank, and he would miss him instead of. Many admirers think Mike's eulogy was sincere, and we'll discuss why shortly. But 6 months have passed since Frank's Mike disclosed that he was dead. Intending to take a vacation from the program, is it possible that he actually missed Frank? However, if this were true, why did Mike swap out Frank for his own younger? Why didn't Mike also ask his brother Rob Wolfe? declare the break when Frank passed away. As sadly, Frank's passing wasn't the death or stroke that forced him to depart from. The demonstrate Frank's persistent raising been doing caused excruciating back agony, something he had to cope with for months prior to ultimately performing surgery. Prior to the Frank had surgery, shot a few episodes, and when the shows in which he starred concluded in March, Frank vanished from the show. 20. Mike's justification at the Frank was recuperating at the moment from surgery. After Frank missed more than they had expected, fans started to inquire. I wondered where Frank was and when he would return to the show, but they did not receive a definitive response until 2021. Mike verified that Frank had departed the display, but Frank's interpretation of the situation was different, and he made the startling disclosure that he remained on the show but was then pushed away from it as though. This discovery wasn't startling enough. Frank disclosed that Mike was involved in him being dismissed from the show. What caused this to occur, and why would Mike made sure there was no call from the network? Frank even stated for 2 years in the past. Because he remained silent with Mike, even Mike didn't even do his procedure. Frank didn't bother to check on him. Specifics, but he implied that Mike was uneasy about Frank's developing. Despite his popularity in the show, he claimed Mike's prominent role in the program Mike seems to have an issue with him, and that after he shed some pounds, Frank appeared to be coming. For Mike's, could Mike actually hold the top spot? Scared that Frank might overthrow him? Is there a deeper issue at play? Frank showed that everything wasn't as it looked. That significant tensions existed on the demonstrate. When Mike was questioned about what Frank stated was accurate in 2021, he swiftly replied that he is a private individual. On his friendship with Frank Anders, no desire to establish the record. Praying for Frank's but remaining straight, Mike's response to recovery didn't address. The problem and sensation that he kicked after leaving the show, Frank stayed with the crowd. However, it had no impact on the show's ratings. Fans continued to support the program even if the dynamic was suddenly altered. Danielle Colby Robb, an expert in antiques John Slee and Jersey alternate travel. Occasionally, to discover new things with Mike. They even went on separate excursions when Mike wasn't the type of thing that was on his mannerisms that a man who desired. This would be made possible by his own attentiveness. The fans found the new strategy novel and fans continued to adore the show's concept and were interested in learning why Mike would discover and whether he would be attending a new location or an old one. However, in 2023, did it become evident that Mike overlooked Frank's appearance on the program following Frank had a stroke and was recuperating. Mike came to see him while Frank had a fresh chance to make a comeback to the show. However, his health would not permit it, and fans were not able to view Frank. Mike will always be on screen, so if Mike is not taking a vacation because of Frank's, what is the true cause of his death? Wishing to rest, is that possible? Mike's wedding bells are ringing once more, and he wishes to spend some time getting ready. Following his divorce from his former spouse, Jod, in 2020, and ultimately separated from Mike, moved on and left her in 2021. Public with his connection to, in August 2021, Letitia Clean, and the two have continued to thrive ever since. Yet, their bond is not quite as conventionally. They don't share the same. Both of them are really busy at home. Individuals, and Letitia has disclosed that she also wanted her personal space as well. The couple doesn't intend to perhaps share a residence at the. They do, however, live 2 hours away from Letitia, each of whom resides in Cave City. She owns and operates a business in Kentucky. Ace Coffee is a prosperous cafe company. Mike is a Lipers, Fork, Tennessee, resident. Even though they are separated by space, the two are constantly together and engage in activities. They have engaged in some tourism together, several locations across the nation. Additionally, they have collaborated on a Harley-Davidson advertisement. Despite, Letitia is not in any American. I suppose that pickers don't all of it together after everything they do. Share one additional characteristic. However, They are not interested in getting married just now. Inquired as to whether there would be an engagement during their red carpet of their new film's premiere. The two of them in the film Day of Reckoning demonstrated unequivocally that they wouldn't be getting engaged soon. They say they enjoy their current relationship that is far away and are enjoying themselves right now. Will they be? Perhaps they will soon change their minds. Or perhaps not. It will be fascinating to observe. Consequently, if not due to marriage, or in why is Mike taking a break from his engagement, from his appearance on the show since the Mike's accomplishments over the past 15 years, his relationship with American Pickers has resulted in additional endeavors and greater success. One of his next show would be those. Mike Wolfe's greatest selections in history. As of right now, this show has been approved by the History Channel for a season, and it would center on Mike as he pursues relics, artifacts, and legendary treasures from the past. Share their tales and value. Mike is going to be the manual that would benefit the audience examine strange and uncommon objects, collectibles, as well as the mysteries and importance of Mike's elusive discovery, basically be making history come to life. This program is similar to American Pickers, but perhaps on a far larger scale. When Mike travels overseas, there are still a few show specifics. But we do know that Mike is thrilled to take action and views it as a chance to experiment. And this is just what Mike's reasons for taking a vacation from America Pickers. Following 15 years of American Pickers, and more than 3 decades of Mike wants to try professional selecting. Something fresh, the desire for this change occurred when Sean Silver, the director, close companion of his, who was aware of his passion for motorcycles, prompted him to play a scene from the movie Day of Reckoning. That initially had Mike riding a bike, wanted to remain in and avoid acting. His role as the lead character in American. He harbored concerns about Pickers. If he was able to perform his part in spite of, not even having a lot of lines to say, would consider his bravery to be novel. Terrain searching for fresh years and chooses fear being captured on camera would prepare him. But Mike wasn't sure. Nevertheless, he chose to do it. And he was, yes. The position was distinct from what Mike found it, despite being accustomed to it. Thrilling since he was able to perform. With Mike disclosed that Billy Zane gave him acting courses to help him perform his. Do you believe Mike has the potential to be an amazing performer? Would he receive much more? Mike grew in love with speaking roles. The lively vitality of his companion Sean demonstrated. And based on what he observed, Mike is open to additional Hollywood opportunities. Mike isn't restricting himself to. Only in Hollywood is he amenable to anything, provided that Mike has played American Pickers for a very long time, that he requires some fresh air and this is normal. The issue is what might happen. Mike makes the decision to try new things, that he no longer finds appealing going back to the program he created. What would this signify over time for? Would his other co-stars stay on? Would they relocate, or would the performance go on without him? Moving forward, it's fantastic that Mike has discovered new interests, but fans ought to get ready for the likelihood that their favorite television personality might be searching for a fresh horizon. Entirely, perhaps. Mike has chosen his last item,